Engage in just simple charity, to some cause, philanthropy, welfare work, because giving up enables some detachment. When detachment comes, the heart is becoming clean. When the heart is becoming cleaned, it increases our knowledge and self-awareness, and little by little bit, the brain, the fog in the brain clears, and we start thinking about higher matters. That's the reason why in the major portion of the Vedas, what is called Karma Kanda, people are constantly encouraged or instructed to give away in charity. On the full moon day, make this donation. On some other day, do that other donation. Because by giving away, they are slowly taking baby steps towards detachment, which helps in the process of cleaning the heart, which in turn clears the fog in the brain and makes them think of higher goals. Okay, carry on.
Yeah, also just before that,
Yeah,
I forgot to press the record button. So the
right,
initial part didn't get recorded, but now I've pressed it. So yeah,
right.
anybody who's starting now would have heard Supriya Chechi explain something, but just because I didn't press the record button before, that's why the
Okay.
initial introduction didn't get recorded. So yeah, continuing with that. So in the 12th chapter, 11th verse, and so continuing with this, that is also recommended here because by the practice of giving up the fruits of uh, giving on the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind gradually, and in that purified stage of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness. Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there are impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country, etc., may be accepted so that someday one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 46, we find it is stated, Yadaha pravritir bhutanam. If one decides to sacrifice for the supreme cause, even if he does not know that the supreme cause is Krishna, he will come gradually to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause by the sacrificial method.
So it's nice to see here Prabhupada is presenting a very lenient view, and Krishna is accepting. It's like all encompassing in his embrace. People are at different levels. Krishna gives them space and time to move up, provided they sort of stick to the recommended path and they at least have some vague idea that there is a higher life and a higher purpose to this human birth. So traditionally in Vedic societies, that was why people were accommodated at different levels.
Mm.
It's and as it says, to understand that Krishna is the supreme cause, the last sentence, that one may get there only over lifetimes, doing social service and community service and national service and welfare and philanthropy, and that way giving up at least portions of their fortune, their good luck or fortune, and like that slowly they move up. Okay, verse 12.
Okay. Shreyo hi jnanam abhyasaj
अभ्यासाद् ज्ञानाद्
jnanad dhyanam vishishyate
विशिष्यते
dhyanat karma phala tyagas tyagat chanti anantaram. श्रेयो हि ज्ञानम् अभ्यासाच् ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्म फलत्यागस्त्यागच्चान्तिरनन्तरम् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानम् अभ्यासाच् ज्ञानात् ध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्म फलत्यागस्त्यागच्चान्तिरनन्तरम्.
If you cannot even take to this practice, then engage yourself just in the cultivation of knowledge. Wow. So if this giving up the fruits of one's actions, it's basically karma yoga, nishkama karma yoga. Karma yoga, basically, that's the level. Now he's talking, if you cannot take to this practice and engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge, that is basically gyan. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation. That's dhyana yoga. And better than meditation is renunciation of the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. Wow. So Krishna is really like jumping across different levels of the yoga ladder here, according to the abilities of people or where they are situated. Can you read the purport, the first para, please?
Yeah, as mentioned in the previous verses, there are two kinds of devotional service: the way of regulative principles and the way of full attachment in love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For those who are actually not able to follow the principles of Krishna consciousness, it is better to cultivate knowledge, because by knowledge one can be able to understand his real position. Gradually, knowledge will develop to the point of meditation. By meditation, one can be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead by a gradual process. In the cultivation of knowledge, there are processes which make one understand that one himself is the Supreme. And that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in devotional service. If one is not able to meditate in such a way, then there are prescribed duties, as enjoined in the Vedic literature. For the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, which we shall find in the last chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. But in all cases, one should give up the result or fruits of labor. This means to employ the result of karma for some good cause. In summary, to reach the Supreme
Okay,
Personality of
just
Godhead.
hold on. Hold on. No, there's one controversial kind of statement that he's making here, that it's okay. There are processes which make one understand that one himself is the supreme. How is that possible? And that sort of meditation is preferred if one is unable to engage in a devotional service. Actually, he's directly referring to dhyana yoga.
Mm,
Sorry, the Ashtanga yoga, where the yogi, it is a process by which when he's blocked all his senses, withdrawn his senses, controlled all the breathing, life air, he gradually begins to see inside the heart the Paramatma. Now, depending on his purity of consciousness, he ideally should see that the Paramatma is different and the Atma is himself. But if there is the consciousness is sullied with ego, ambition, basically it's not fully clean. There's very great trap at this level, despite having done so much of Ashtanga yoga practices, that they mistake the Paramatma and the Atma to be one. So then that person, basically it is like what Mayavad philosophy is about. That person makes the mistake of thinking that he himself is the supreme.
mm,
Right. But in this very liberal purport, Srila Prabhupada seems to be suggesting that if direct devotional service is not possible, better to do this Ashtanga yoga, even if one ends up falling into this trap that, oneself is the supreme. That is, you see in that meditation, dhyan meditation, finally, when you're sitting in a particular prescribed posture as we studied in the Ashtanga Yoga chapter, we are, even if we are basically, or Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6, basically, even if they are sitting for such a long time, that they become aware, they're able to see the Lord in the heart, that is the Paramatma. But there is a danger that they don't see the Paramatma as separate from the Atma. You remember early on in chapters, maybe 2, we read of this verse in one of the Upanishad which talks about two birds on a tree. They are always together.
yeah,
There are two birds. So
yeah,
one is the Paramatma, who is a Sakshi or a witness to everything the other bird is doing, which is the Atma, the Jiva. So they are essentially separate. They're same in quality, but they are separate beings. So the danger of the Ashtanga yogi is that in his intense absorption and concentration, and when he sees the Paramatma, he can mistake that that is the same as the Atma, and he thinks himself to be the supreme. But even that is acceptable according to this purport if that yogi is not yet ready for direct devotional service. Okay, read on.
yeah.
In summary,
In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. One process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct.
right, direct.
Devotional devotional service is Krishna consciousness. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method, and the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation, then to the stage of understanding the supersoul, and then to the stage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One may take either the step by step process or the direct path. The direct path is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. It is, however, to be understood that the indirect process is not recommended for Arjuna because he's already at the stage of loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It is for others who are not at this stage. For them, the gradual process of renunciation, knowledge, meditation, and realization of the Supersoul and Brahman should be followed. But as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take the direct method and surrender under the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna.
Okay, so having given this very liberal view and perspective on things, the concluding words of the purport by founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada are that it's always better to take the direct method. So therefore, when people start searching, they or say they come to an ISKCON temple, one of the first things that they're told to do is to do some kind of service, because that service is the direct method. You know, somebody, if it's a lady, they don't check, is she clean, has she had a bath, what is her caste, these things don't matter. They straight away say, will you help us sort out these flowers, they're going to be made into a garland. If you know how to make a garland, do you mind, we short of staff to do it. If it's or some of the ladies will say, can you, we've just finished a feast, you had the feast, do you mind, can you just help with the vessels? So a whole lot of people are willing, actually, surprisingly, to wash vessels. I've heard also that sometimes with the men, they say, can you sort out the chapel stand, it's a big mess, everyone's thrown the chapel, which means accepting that menial service of picking up somebody else's chapels and, you know, sorting it out. Why do they do this? Because this is a direct method that Jiva has come after we don't know how many lifetimes to at least to take a glimpse of what the process is. He or she probably heard a class, ate some prasadam, may not come back. We don't know. They may say, oh, this is all too much and I don't like these people here, or I feel out of place. So quickly they are basically threaded into the process by being given some service, so that the Lord, the deity standing, they will take note and somehow draw them back.
Mm.
Giving books, selling books to them, taking a donation from them, you know, is just like slowly opening the door for in their life for them to step out and at least come in contact with proper devotees at a class and a center.
Mm.
Of course, for each jiva, there's a different route, and these things are pre-planned by Krishna. That's true. But even so, this is the meaning that the direct method is always better. And in ISKCON at least, we make sure that the person is quickly pulled into the direct method. Somebody later may go back and say, I don't care for all this service. I just want to understand and understand and understand. There are people like that, you know. So they may then take that path of Bhakti Gyan. They want to understand more, and why is Krishna the Supreme Personality? I'm not convinced. Why can't it be Shiva? You know, there are certain the like that. It's so why can't it be Devi? And but the attempt is to get them onto the direct path.
But
Yeah,
actually, when you said that, no, like I've seen like people who are praying to other, let's say, demigods and who believe in other, like let's say, believe in other gods or even other paths and all that.
yeah.
They for some reason like every single path like has like a similar sort of like
A slogan. You mean
a
like a
slow.
slogan? Ours is
Uh,
the most superior. Ours is the best.
yeah,
Is
no,
that?
like as in something like they have a similar way of like I guess approaching it in the sense that they think that their god is like the supreme or their god is that. So because even in our belief also we feel like Krishna is the supreme personality of
Yeah.
Godhead, and in other like somebody will say that Shiva is like the supreme personality of
Yeah, yeah.
Godhead in that sense, and different things. But then it's like the approach to everything is the same. It's just that the God is different, and it's like there's not much in that sense, like because
It's a,
you'll
it's
they'll find they'll find a way to like make all those stories of the other gods to be like, okay, this is the supreme god in that situation, whereas Krishna's also part of it, but he's like he's not the supreme because he comes from the same god or
actually,
something.
yeah, I understand. It's like saying, irrespective of whether you're going to Jammu or you're going to Varanasi or you're going to Kottayam, there's a
Mm.
certain procedure. You have to basically buy a ticket. Nowadays, you have to get your ID proof ready and you have to board that plane or train, right? But
Mm.
the destination is different, so where you end up is different,
Mm.
isn't it? Whether you're going to Kottayam or whether you're going to Varanasi or to Jammu or to Katra or Kashmir, they're all going to basically involve certain steps that you take, but the destination is totally different.
Mm.
So, and the thing is, that's where some personal discrimination and what that jiva is bringing from previous lifetimes, their understanding, their own searching, that's very important, because when they are so much into Devi worship, the only really the not weapon, the only thing we can do by way of like a medicine is to explain the bigger picture, where in the Bhagavatam itself, where Maya Devi stands with folded hands, Narada has this vision when he meditates as a child. The Lord appears, the four-armed Vishnu appears, behind this Maya Devi waiting with folded hands too. Maya Devi means Durga, means Devi. So
Mm.
if someone can preach very powerfully from that verse and the purport and explain that the more you worship Durga, the more she will reward you with all kinds of material benefits, a happy home life, a good husband or a good wife and wealth and fortune. And but you're still, and her job is to keep you trapped here. She is pleased, she will reward you to keep you trapped here, and she doesn't necessarily have the power to prevent your larger destiny from playing itself out. If it is your larger destiny to lose all this suddenly in a flood, people went to Badri, there were huge floods, or Kedar or wherever in 2012, they came back with her, nobody from the family members left, you know.
Mm.
And so when that happens, then these people don't have any safety net to go back to. So Devi will keep Devi, or like as in this case, a lot of people, when you say demigod worship, they are satisfied, they are getting results for the prayers they are offering, the boons they are asking, that's all fine. But in the larger picture, it is a job of the female energy to Maya Devi to play the role of someone who keeps you in a gilded cage or a prison and keeps you happy there. But for some reason, when that just the ground shakes under your feet and you lose all these wonderful fortunes that she has bestowed you with as after your prayers, then what do you do? So once someone is willing to face that truth, then basically they will start looking for something higher. They'll be
Mm.
forced to acknowledge Krishna or Vishnu's position. And then if they see, of course, their Devi Mahatmaya and their Shiva Purana will keep telling them up to a certain point that, I am the most, Shiva is the best, Shiva is the most superior, and Devi in that case. But when they come across verses of Devi Parvati approaching Lord Shiva and asking for spiritual guidance, and Shiva replying that Vishnu alone can basically bestow you with salvation or with moksha. There's that famous verse, Vishnu eva asamshaya, mukti pradata, that one. That I can't give you that mukti, only Lord Vishnu can. So if that person has already come to this lifetime with some questioning and thinking, some such thing in the background in his history, then he will be able to accept verses like this, which actually act as key turning points in his or her life.
Mm.
It's like a whole process. I mean, when I look back, I was a Shiva worshipper. That is how, not very seriously, because I was kind of little on my own trip. I didn't like organized religion. I was too indisciplined to really appreciate that this regulated religion has its strengths. And in our house, my father was mostly agnostic, questioning, but not very actively. And he was willing to keep my mother do whatever she wanted. But when that clerk in Varanasi asked that question, that you are highly educated, you're going to get an Oxford degree, but have you ever read the Bhagavad Gita? It need not have made any impact on me, isn't it?
Mm.
So many people he might have asked, and we don't know with what intention. Was it a Hindutva intention he was trying to inject into me? We don't know, because he was very much a Brahmin, a Mishraji. There is this narrow prejudice view that, our scripture is the best, but they can't necessarily explain why it's the best. So we don't know with what intention. But I came to that point where he asked this question. Somehow it made a big impact on me. I was ready for that question. And it became like a life changing, life direction changing question for me. So there's a whole lot of background work that we are not aware of, that we have done in previous lifetimes, and the Lord has done on us or in us, which brings us to certain points.
Mm.
Somehow like your father put in a word and said, can we asked, am I willing to do an interview with you? And then somehow you already were so much into all this.
Mm.
You are inspired by SB Keshav Swami. So it's just all huge arrangements are in place, but we also have a limited but very active role to play in that.
Yeah, that's what I realized. Like we have like some of us can like develop our Krishna consciousness mindset or that mood or whatever and all that. But I would say like even that also probably has like a limit to how much you can probably get to. In the sense, maybe in this life or
Yeah,
maybe in like in this life that you're living in, maybe in like a future life you can do much more. Maybe you're placed in a
possibly.
situation you're placed in a situation where you can learn more, you can do more with some knowledge or whatever, and then it keeps on increasing like that and all that stuff. But I think like what we were discussing also previously about conditioning as well. When
Uh-huh.
people are like kind of like all of us in one sense have been slightly conditioned to
Sure.
believe certain things and to act in certain ways. And no matter how much you try to say no, that okay, this is not correct, this is the right path, or like even if you say that this is the right path, whereas everything else is thing, you can still like that your default ends up going to those areas again back if you're
Sure.
not
That's
if you're not like if you're not focused enough or but that also is like I guess it's like all you can do is just be aware that these are the issues that are there, these are
yeah.
the like pitfalls and traps and all that, and then fall back on like whatever path spiritual path you're following and all that, fall back on that and then do that, continue doing that. But yeah, like I've seen other people also say like so I have like in my office and all that now. There's like Bengali people also who work in my office. So they're
Right.
obviously in Bengal, like Durga worship is like very popular there, right? Because
Absolutely.
Makali, Durga and
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
So when that Durga festival was going on, like they needed like a leave and all that stuff. So our
Right.
boss would give them leave and all that stuff, and like they couldn't miss it. And now similarly like in Kerala like a lot of lot of people who come all the way from like different places just to just to come meet Ayappa in
Right.
in Sabrimala or whatever.
Yeah.
And like that various other examples, there are various other demigods and various other people like that. And so you can't tell those people who are extreme followers
Yeah.
of like Durga or Ayappa or whoever else is like that this your at the end of the day Krishna is the highest and all that stuff, because they're walking all the way from
Right.
like Telangana or whatever with like with coconuts in their head, and they're with and
I understand. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're already very convinced. Like even if you see them, like I'll see a lot of the devotees who are devotees of Ayappa, for example, and they'll be in like a temple, like they'll be in like the airport or they'll a train station or whatever, and it's like full black
Yeah,
black
yeah, yeah.
shawl and t-shirt, and it's what do you say, munda, whatever they'll wear. And like if you go up to them and if you tell them like no actually but Krishna's like they'll be like they won't want to listen to that much. They'll just want like they'll think that Ayappa is the only one who's like the most
But
but that also is true in a way. It's also true in a way, like that's I think everybody's all, even Ayappa is also like an important god who's serving Krishna, you can say like that. But I guess that is something that they won't accept
two
or whatever.
two things here. A lot of people who go on this Ayappa trip, Shabarimalai, the minute the fast is over, they dive into heavy drinking and heavy all kinds of binging.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are not even doing this properly. They are just doing it because it's a fad or someone from the family tells them to go. without getting into all that, what normally I know that ISKCON has little stalls up Shabarimalai. They either enter into some understanding with the Devaswam board that they are allowed to keep a little. Now, books, we keep only small books. Or we keep trinkets, a little ring with a figure of baby Krishna, on it, or a locket. People get attracted to all this and buy it for 5 rupees, 10 rupees. And somewhere something may happen. Now, as far as the books go, the little books in the local language, huge effort is going on. These book tables, you know, which why Mata Amritanandamayi's annual festival takes place in where is it? Velangani, right? Not Velangani. What am I saying? In Velaini or not Velaini? Kaimanam. Kaimanam, yeah. Every January, her birthday is celebrated in a big way. Our book table there, they don't have any issues with it. They're getting bigger and bigger. And I know quite a few people who say, I bought the Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita. I had gone there as a worshipper of Mata Amritanandamayi. I got it from your book table. I read it and then I started to hunt for ISKCON. They may not tell us what happened after that. How did they lose interest in the Amrita Foundation and why did they come here? What was there that was more convincing here? Was it just the splendor of the puja and the association and the kirtan or what? We don't know. So huge effort goes in and we don't know at what point the person may find something attractive here depending on how prepared their soul is. So I think little books, not directly challenging and speaking to them, they won't receive it. Apart from whether it is right or wrong to tell them, they won't receive it. Other thing is they themselves ought to have reached some level of frustration with their process if they are going to basically look for something else. Lot of them are not at all frustrated and are very satisfied. They are not going to be receptive at all. There's nothing. We can only do half the work by introducing them to all these materials. So giving them a trinket like a ring with a sweet baby Krishna on it or a locket. They have to have reached a point from the other side, no? Only then will it actually work. Whether it is like as you said about Shabarimalai and Ayyappa and it's tough, but one just doesn't know from where who joins and the books definitely they stay. People may say no, I don't want. I have so many Bhagavad Gita, so many, but somehow if they get in, there is like Prabhupada himself said it that these kind of books basically act like little bombs and you don't know when they go off and blow out all the ignorance or the confusion and make people come. I've heard stories of people who there was a Padayatra going through Palayam 20 years earlier and this lady was working in they are owners of the Maruti car dealers and she was just there as a family member. Two foreigners came in and started giving books in the office. The lady out of kindness took a book and then gave them water and sent them off. The book was on her bookshelf for almost 15 years. Something happened. I think somebody in the family went into a critical condition. Someone said, read the Bhagavad Gita, read the Bhagavad Gita. And she said, where to get a Bhagavad Gita? Suddenly she remembered there's a Bhagavad Gita on the shelf. And she started reading and we don't know what happened. She contacted local ISKCON, which is just a small setup in Tekyard those days. Now there is a city center, there is got so much. Today I went just for ordinary vegetable shopping, right? When I went into one shop, a lady came out, a lady who was going up, came back, stopped me and said, Hare Krishna. So I said, yes, because I had my tilakuri and my beads. And she did this and went away. I went into the Supreme Provision store here because the other place didn't have palak or something. They have vegetables. I was going in and a lady who was limping and coming down said, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. I said, yes. So obviously they are very visible now. Something is happening and they are really terribly visible. There's a huge effort. And at whatever level, all these ladies who I'm talking about, they're probably seriously into Devi worship. They're seriously into Ayyappa, Shabarimalai. But that doesn't mean they can't keep their mind open for something else that attracts them. I don't think we have to imagine that straight away that their other beliefs have to get pushed out and only then Krishna can come in. You know, Krishna works in many wondrous ways. We just don't know when you see each devotee's life trajectory and how they came to him.
But also that story of Ayyappa also is also it's kind of fascinating in the sense that
What is the
Uh,
story actually? Tell me of Ayyappa, just at least
I
quickly
don't know. I
before.
don't know the whole thing properly, but see, like he shoots an arrow,
Right?
and that arrow, wherever it lands, that place became the temple.
Oh,
And that's kind of like how the temple's formed. Before that, there's like a lot of things happen before that and all that, where like he's supposedly like um I don't know. I think he's the son. I think he's like the son of part Vishnu and Shiva or something like that. There's
I
like
think so. Yeah, yeah.
something like that is there. So a lot of things happened. He also, I think, is able to like tame a tiger and all that. Like there's a lot of stories within Ayappa as well. But basically, how the temple is formed is that Ayappa shoots an arrow and it goes in lands in one place, and that place where he lands becomes Shabrimala. And and the people who look after that Shabrimala temple from then onwards till now, there's a royal family
Right.
of who's like looking after it. Not that it's a different royal family from the
Yeah, yeah.
Trivandrum royal family, but I don't
Padmanabhan.
know. Yeah,
Okay.
but those people, I think that family still is there. I think they're still somewhere there and all that. And they are supposed to be like descendants from that Ayappa's kingdom or whatever it is supposed to be like that. They're from there, and they
Okay.
take care of the temple and all that. They're supposed to at least have some ownership or something. I don't know of the temple, but basically that is the thing. The temple is wherever that arrow
Yeah.
landed is where. So I think that is why some like I think they have some festival where like on a particular time in a year there's like some light that goes across in the sky in
You mean
Sabrimala.
astronomically the.
Yeah, some light
Okay.
is there that goes. I think that's probably to signify the arrow getting
Right,
shot
right.
and then
Yeah, I
coming there.
understand.
So there's like that. That's like a huge event. So like people watch it on TV and all that stuff, and they'll see it like on TV. Oh, that light is coming or whatever. And I've
Okay.
been to Sabrimala twice, so I've
Uh,
seen that place. Like at a very young age, I've been there. So I've seen that temple. It's like you have to walk a lot. You have to walk from the bottom of the
I
temple. You have to
know.
like. Have you been there?
No, I haven't, but
You haven't
I
been there.
watched videos of how far people have to go. They
It's a
get down at
long.
Pamba.
Apparently, like yeah, Pamba, and it's like you have to walk a lot. Like I went once. I went with I think twice with my family. Once even like Amuma also was there. She came
Right.
long. This was also
See.
obviously it was like really long back. And
Uh-huh.
so we walked from the bottom of the temple all the way to there's so many steps, so you have to walk a lot. And
Mm.
within the sides of as you're walking on top, within the sides there's like a lot of stalls and all that stuff where you can like buy things like and I think the achievement itself is like getting up to that top of the mountain just by
Right.
walking.
I
Everybody's walking
understand.
up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Then once you get inside, then there's a massive queue. You have to like everybody's like sticking together. It's a massive. You're wearing that coconut on your head
I
constant,
see. You have to
and
keep
like
that also in
yeah,
place.
you
Right,
have to keep
right.
that on place. And then there's one part where you reach. I think in front of the deity, there's one coconut stab. You take the coconut and throw it, and then
I
it
see.
breaks.
Okay.
And that's the end of your because you've taken it
The
from
vrat, the vrat
yeah
or the vow.
yeah
Uh-huh.
the wow. So you take all that and you just throw it and then it's done like that whatever. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. But like I can understand why that whole pilgrimage and that whole thing. Somebody is like coming all the way from Andhra Pradesh or Telangana or whoever
Right.
else. They are like for them or Tamil Nadu or even Kerala also any other state for them it's like the most important thing like once every year everybody comes to this temple and then prays here and does all this and all that stuff. The controversial side is like women are not allowed to come, but they can only come after a certain age, like after once they're old or they're like very young they can come in those
But
times.
that's because I think his celibacy, no? He wants
Celibacy,
to maintain his
yeah,
celibacy.
celibacy and all that, yeah, that's there.
It's actually the photos of the paintings of him are very adorable with his big eyes and the. But what you are saying about an arrow and you're talking something else you mentioned, not only the arrow, did
The
you talk
light
about a
or
bird or a beast or some animal?
tiger. There was a tiger.
Tiger.
There's a
Yeah.
tiger
So
in the story somewhere where
I
he's
am
able,
always, yeah,
where he's
tiger.
able,
Yeah.
yeah, he's able to tame a tiger or something like that. There's a story about how he's able to tame a tiger and all that stuff. I don't know
But
the.
I'm always confused between him and Subramaniam, because Subramaniam
Uh,
also has a peacock and a quiver of arrows and looks
mm,
very beautiful. And Subramaniam is a child of Shiva and Parvati, isn't it? See,
yeah.
tiger doesn't come to Subramaniam, but everything else, the quiver of arrows,
So
it's
is literally
Ayyappa,
Ayappa literally
tiger.
Dharma Shastra, yeah, and he's the son of Vishnu in the form of Moini and Shiva, thus
Okay,
representing a bridge between Shaivism and he's
I
like a
see.
bridge between Shaivism and
Right,
Vaishnavism.
right. Yeah, it
So
always looks very attractive. I know this form.
yeah, and something I'm just trying to see. I think somewhere about yeah, like I'm just trying to see the tiger part of it, which is uh, mm, oh okay, yeah, Pandala Kingdom. That's the family,
That's the
Pandala.
royal family,
That's the
Pandala
royal
royal
family.
family. Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
definitely this worship has its place. Definitely it has its place. That's what this whole the section is about in the Bhagavad Gita. If you
mm,
can't do this, you do this. If you can't do this, meaning those who go to all these austerities, they are going hoping to get some security,
mm,
some reassurance from the Lord. They put their faith in this Lord. They're going to pray and taking all this austerity to ask. I don't think they're asking for spiritual advancement. They're asking for some security. Their family will
mm,
stay safe. They won't lose their job. They will have their money. And they have attraction for this form. Or they've been born into families where traditionally people go. So they go, and there is nothing wrong per se in that. There is nothing wrong. The question is when they are ready for something different, which is going to lead them to a higher place, then
mm,
doors will open and it is up to them to take it. As
mm,
for the women not going, I don't have any quarrel with women not being allowed, because basically I know modern girls may. He is opted for celibacy. That's the reason to protect the celibacy. It's like there is the Sthala Purana, is that the local treatises that tell us how that deity appeared and the temple and the story like you were narrating. For Ganapati, it's understood that he likes modakas.
mm,
Now if you see the Sthala Purana, there will be something of why he likes modakas. Or for Krishna, it is butter.
mm.
Now, if we get into our head and say, why only butter? We will feed modakas to Krishna and butter to Ganapati. It's plain, it's like being insensitive. You call a guest and you ask, what would you like to eat? And if the guest is
Even though you know what that guest likes,
likes,
so
yeah,
have
just to
yeah.
just to prove your political point, if you decide that no, I with this Ganapati I shall offer something else, whatever, I don't know, I mean, right now I can't think of anything. It's just also sometimes worship is something simple. The guest says, please don't play any blaring music, I have ear pain. Now it's like Ayappa basically saying, I am celibate, I am going to remain celibate. So women only between these, which means they need to wait. Either they are taken when they have not yet matured before puberty, or otherwise they have to go after that whole fertile period is over. So it is a question of sensitivity. Now instead the guest comes with earache and says, please don't play blaring music. And the host son says, nothing, I will have blaring music. Who is he? This is just stupid. To not be sensitive to a guest or to prove a point, we decide that poor Ganapati who loves modakas and his belly bursts. In some photos, you will see the belly is bursting with modakas coming out. He eats so much. We decide no, not modakas, rasgullas, because the Bengalis need representation. The Bengalis are feeling very upset. So rasgullas from tomorrow for the Paivangadigan. It's stupid. It's plain stupid. This is how it is. It is just that in Kali Yuga, the brains are becoming so dull. And people get so trapped by mundane points and they want to prove their egoistic point, and the whole thing blows into court cases and political
Because
factions. And
there are many, but there are also like kind of many temples. I don't know in Kerala, but I think around India there are many temples where even only women are allowed, but not men
yeah,
are allowed, right?
absolutely. Manar
So
Shala, the priest is
yeah,
always a woman.
mm.
Traditionally, it's an elderly woman now. Manar Shala, that is the Naga worship. So why
Mm.
can't people see the bigger picture that here they may not be allowed, but there is somewhere else where always it is in the hands of a woman in the
I
same
think
state.
it's that that story or whatever that mythology about that thing is. It's about that the deity is like that's what their incarnation was for. That purpose was for like kind of they Ayappa wanted to be celibate, and
Right.
so because of that, like you need to respect that. Like even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was celibate also. No?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was also
No,
he
no,
was
no.
celibate,
Chaitanya
or
Mahaprabhu was no, he was
he
married
was.
twice. Once as a
Oh, okay.
sannyasi, once he became a first wife died of snake bite or something.
Hmm.
He was married again, and after that, my battery is running low. Okay, so after that, he basically as a sannyasi celibate. Shall we end here because I have
Yeah,
to?
yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah, yeah.
Hare
Can
Krishna.
be.